What's up, guys? Eli here, back for another new stuff video. It's going to be all music today, CD and vinyl. Quite a bit of different genres, I guess you could say. And I also have, a decent stack of 2022 releases, which I haven't bought that many this year, and I haven't really spent time with much of it either. So, anyways, here we go. So we're just going to start off with the 2022 releases. We have the new Queensryche album, Digital Noise Alliance, out just recently on Century Media Records. Again, I did a pretty somewhat lengthy review, if anyone cares to go check it out. I think it turned out all right. I've listened to this 2-3 times, something like that. I like it. It's pretty good. It's not something that's going to, I don't know. I'm after having listened to it a couple times, I can't imagine when the next time I'm going to be in the mood for it. Then we have the new Candlemass album, their 13th album, by the way, Sweet Evil Sun, it is called, on Napalm Records. I've listened to this only one time so far, so I'll admit, I obviously can't say a ton about it. All I can say, based off that one listen, is pretty underwhelming, man. Their last album, House of or Door to Doom, I thought was really, really strong. It even had a few songs on there that are some of my favorite Candlemass songs. So far, nothing off this album jumps out at me. It sounds like Candlemass. It's all the elements are there, but they just don't sound inspired, and that's kind of a problem for me. And the 10th studio album from Devin Townsend. This, titled Lightwork. This is, let's just say it right now, this is probably going to be my #1 album of the year. I see it almost an impossibility for anything that I will pick up that will rival this. Of course, I got the 2-disc version, as should you. Anyone that ever gets any Devin Townsend album that has a bonus disc, get it. Every time, get it. Don't bother with the single disc version, because the bonus material is always great. In fact, it's usually just an extra album. It's like you get 2 albums, basically. And I love how the title of this album is Lightwork, but the bonus disc is called Nightwork, and I think that's a really, really, really cool idea. I don't know what I can say about this album that I haven't already said. I've talked about this at length. So all I can say is it's amazing. It's probably a 9.5 out of 10 for me personally. It's easily going to be my #1 album of the year. Then we have the 12th album from Drook, out via Season of Mist, Underground Activists. They're kind of a black metal-ish sub-label of Season of Mist. I think it's cool. It really reminds me of like Century Media when they were doing the Century Black stuff in the early and mid-90s. I listened to this twice, once last night, once today. It's good. I'm a big fan of this band. However, I'm not super big on their sound that they've had for, like the last 10, 12 years. They've still black metal, but, strong doses of like, I don't know, I guess you'd call it post-rock and stuff like that. It's very intricate, very melodic, very, very well played, very well written, but I just don't know if that's the sound that I want from Drook. I much prefer their earlier, cold, kind of wintry black metal sounding albums. I think those are almost untouchable. I think everything else they've done since then is fine, but it doesn't jump at me as something that will, hold its own against those earlier albums. And I know that's asking a lot, but come on. As a fan, it's hard for me not to do that. Anyway, the 8th album from Goatwhore came out on Metal Blade Records. It's been their label for a long time now. I haven't listened to this just yet, but I did check out a song, and it was kick-ass. I don't mean to be one of those dickheads, but it sounded like Goatwhore. Just not a bad thing. It was super well written. I was like, this is instantly a pretty memorable song, and I am a Goatwhore fan. I like everything they've done, especially the first 4 albums, but I'm stoked to giving this a couple listens. And not to be a dickhead, I think Goatwhore, I think it's time that they start. I would like them to change their direction as far as artwork goes. They're on this one, they just did that. It's just super generic to me. They did that whole occult imagery thing, with some kind of animal that's sacrificed and swords and snakes and weird occult symbols. And, I used to be a sucker for that, but it's just getting way overdone. I mean, you can see that kind of artwork on just hundreds of other black metal albums. And, not it's good artwork. It's very well done, but I think they should go for something different, something a little bit more fitting for the band. I'm not sure what direction that would be. I just feel like I'm kind of burnt out on this kind of artwork. Small complaint, though. We have the 20th album from Darkthrone, Astral Fortress. Came out via Peaceville Records, of course. Darkthrone are one of my favorite bands. I have not heard this yet, but I also have not heard a single... I wouldn't say I haven't heard a single good thing, but I haven't heard a single great thing. Nobody is gushing about this album as far as I'm concerned. I love all eras of Darkthrone, obviously. I love the early black metal stuff the most, but I like quite a bit of their later material. I don't know, their last album, I didn't spend a lot of time with it. I didn't really latch on to it. The album before that, Old Star, I thought was pretty decent. Modern Darkthrone is one of those things where it's like, I enjoy listening to it. Every album they put out I enjoy, but some of them I just don't really need to return to. And I guess I can't say that about this album just yet, but a lot of people are saying that. But, of course, always listen yourself. Don't fucking base your opinion off someone else's opinion. That's stupid. That said, what do you guys think about the new Darkthrone album? Now we're just going to get into random old stuff that I picked up, like this 1997's Flotsam and Jetsam High. I've never heard this album. Despite being a massive fan of them, some of their mid-era stuff where I jumped off ship, I never really have checked out. So, like, most of their 90s stuff, if not all of it, I haven't heard any of it. So, yeah, I don't want to be one of those presumptuous dickheads, but I think it's fair to say I could probably guess what this would sound like, but I'm not going to do that because that's kind of foolish. But yeah, man, their first album is one of my favorite thrash albums of all time. Might even be my favorite. Their second album is a fan favorite. To me, it's just not as good as the first. And then they just went downhill after that. Their third album's okay. I kind of like their last three albums too, I'll admit. I'm really harsh on older thrash bands, kind of playing more modern sounding music. But I think those last three are okay, especially the most recent one, not as much. But the two before that, I think, are actually, they're pretty fucking good. So, anyone else heard this? And from 2015, we have the debut full length from Gentle Storm. Now, this is pretty much a collaboration between Arjun Anthony Lucassen of Arion fame and other projects he's done too, and Annika van Giersbergen from The Gathering. Anything that she puts her name on, I have to hear. I just have to hear it. And Arjun Anthony Lucassen is no slouch himself. He's a musical genius in his own right. So it came out on Inside Out Records, which tells you right away it's probably going to be progressive metal. And I have not heard a single note off of this. I bought it just mostly because of Annika. So there's two discs here. The disc one is called Gentle, the gentle version, and disc two is called the Storm version. So I'm not sure what that means. Maybe it's two different versions of the same album. Yeah, I'm stoked to listen to them both and see what it's all about. I've heard it's a good album. I haven't heard a single thing off of it yet. 1973, we have the second album from Steely Dan with Can't Buy a Thrill. Haven't heard this before. I am kind of going through Steely Dan's 70s stuff, and it's been fun so far. So far, I love two albums, and then there's two that I also think are pretty good, but they don't hit me the same way. Now, I've heard this album is more pop-oriented than they would be in the 70s, which is funny for it being their second album. But yeah, I've heard the first one's a lot more complex, and then they did this, and then they kind of went back to being more complex. So yeah, I've heard this is their most poppy, but I've also heard it's really good. I don't know where I stand yet with Steely Dan, but like I said, 2 out of the 4 albums that I've heard so far, I really, really, really like a lot. And from 1990, the third album from Texas's King's X with Faith, Hope, Love. I like Queensryche quite a bit. This is the third album now that I've picked up from them. I haven't heard it yet. I totally didn't know that they were signed to Megaforce Records, which, I always think about this band, and as do most people, and wonder why this band never made it huge. I mean, they are popular, but they're more of like a cult band, but they never made it super huge. And I can't help but think maybe being on Megaforce Records kind of hindered them a little bit. I feel like the thrash fans from the 80s and early 90s probably didn't want to hear this kind of like proggy, soulful, hard rock, heavy metal. Every Queensryche album I've heard so far sounds different than the other, which is, I love when bands do that. So yeah, I don't know what this sounds like at all, but I've heard it's great. And from 1999, Iron Maiden with Ed Hunter. I showed this in one of my recent Iron Maiden videos. It is basically a greatest hits with a video game. They made, well, not they, Maiden didn't make it, but someone made an Iron Maiden video game, like I said, 1999. They never did play it, but so it's got the game. It actually looks kind of cool. It's a first-person shooter, and it's got 20 tracks, which were apparently picked by the fans, and they did some kind of poll, I guess. The only thing exclusive that it has is the 1999 version of Wrathchild, which is Bruce Dickinson on vocals. So, sure, that's cool. I mean, it's a Paul song, but Bruce sings it really good live, and no complaints there. Has anyone ever played this game, by the way? I don't know anyone that's ever played it, but I've heard it's actually not bad. Moving on to the vinyl now. I only have a few. It's all prog stuff, so, only 3 of you care about that, but whatever. I have a Kansas single, Stand Behind Me, from their 1988 album, In the Spirit of Things. I quite like that album, actually. Steve Walsh was still in the band. Yeah, I mean, I've heard this album only a couple times. But I like it a lot. I haven't spent as much time with it as I have, most of their other stuff, so I'm still kind of digesting that one. I've only had the album for, I don't know, a couple months or something. I have another Genesis single. I might already have this, but I think I might not. But it's the Tonight, Tonight, Tonight single from Invisible Touch. It's got Tonight, 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 and In the Glow of the Night as the B-side. 1983, we have the debut album from Marillion, Script for a Jester's Tear. Glad to have this on vinyl, no less. So Marillion obviously are a very, very famous kind of second wave of British prog band. They started in the late 70s, early 80s, somewhere around there. And, a lot of people say they sound quite a bit like Genesis. They do sound a little bit like Genesis, and Genesis were their heroes, but I wouldn't say they're by no means a carbon copy. Their original singer, Fish, his real name is Derek something, but he goes by Fish anyways. He does sound a bit like Peter Gabriel, I won't deny that, but, Marillion have their own sound, and that's why, they're a legendary prog band to this day. And then from 1987, I don't remember if this is their third or fourth album, Clutching at Straws. I've heard this album's great. I've never heard it. I haven't heard this one yet either. I've only heard one album from Marillion, and I really liked it. So they're a band I've really wanted to delve into, and I'm really only just kind of starting. They have a lot of albums, so there's a lot of stuff to pick up and listen to and digest and all that. It's a chore sometimes, but it's a burden I willingly carry. Anyways, guys, that's it for now. I have a couple other new stuff videos lined up. One with all movies, because I picked up a bunch of new movies. Really cool stuff, by the way. And I also got a package from Tony, Life Eternal. So I need to show that as well. So that's probably what you could expect out of me in the next week or two. But other than that, I appreciate you stopping by. Louis says hello, and we'll talk soon.